Okay, guys, so we're moving to the left angle process now with the left angle cross of identification with the sun in gate 9. The 5-1 that leads us to left angle cross of identification. It's the way that we came from in the sense of the global cycles, this need to identify. At the very beginning of the cycle, we're in 1615. We started in the sixth line. Remember that the position of the equinox goes in another direction. This is something that was there at the very beginning of our process in the whole construct. And to see very clearly that at the beginning that was required was identification, to identify where the focus was. Now, if you go back to 1615, actually it was 615, which was the time of the bubonic plague in Europe, as an example, that you will see that that was identified immediately, was very clear. There are many things that had to be dealt with: the infrastructure for healthcare, change for the sewer system, the introduction of the beginnings of cleanliness in healthcare, the beginnings of educational institutions for more advanced medical stuff, the beginning of organized schools, and so forth and so on. In other words, different streams were identified for detail work and development, and all of that to the benefits of the tribe. So it's also interesting in terms of many things that we get to think about in human design. It's interesting to see that for me, the plague was really a very important mutative instrument. It changed so many things. It was amazing how much change it brought to the way in which we operate. And then you see that this is coincidental to us entering into the era of the cross of planning, where identifying where the problems are, identifying what the solutions have to be, getting to a point of satisfaction with everything. Faith, it's an interesting line. The trust that detailed adherence will lead to fulfillment. There is a mystical line: loyalty to the letter of the law, or like the mystery of God, doubt endangered through the perceived illogic of a process. This is identification with the recognition that the pattern cannot just be logical. And also something else: the satisfaction that is possible is not diminished by the fact that it has to be lived out illogically. This is one of the most interesting things about logic, as opposed to the emotional abstract. Logic is planning, the abstract is emotional. Logic can actually appreciate the illogic, which is why within the logic construct we have chaos theory. Our logic could postulate chaos therapy and be satisfied. So, one of the beauties of understanding why logic is the universal format for life is to be able to see very clearly that this is to be open, experiential, abstract process as part of the essential pattern. Unless one can identify and can be identified, there is no progress, none. There's no way for us to, within the cross of planning, to be able to get to that place where we're able to fulfill all of its demand. And of course, we know very clearly what 151s are like. It's very difficult for a fifth personality to identify with anything. It's all projection field. The only thing that's possible for them is that they're fortunate enough in their life to be able to experience the potential of their one. Remember, if you're a 4 or 5 1 and you grow up in a dirt village and there's no library and no whatever, the chances of you being able to have the depth necessary to live a 5 1 life is limited. It doesn't mean you won't investigate relative to your researches, but you will. But of course, that in and of itself is going to be deep limitation. And what you're going to be able to identify with is going to be deeply limited. So it's a real dilemma for these beings. They're the ones that are going to have an enormous problem in being able to realize identification. So good luck with that. Then we go to the 5-2 on the left angle cross of identification. The 5-2 has a much deeper concern in all of this. That is, the second line is here to be called. And as you know, whether you're dealing with a thickened configuration, you're dealing with the potential for the real outside to be able to impact you. There's this extraordinary call that is impossible. That is possible. And in that call, it's potential for spiritual regeneration. The 5-2 on this cross is very, very open to mystical transformation. Now, when I say mystical transformation or spiritual transformation, you never know what's going on in these beings. It's hard to figure it out. So, but one of the things is clear about the 5-2 that they're being called to faith. And in being called to faith, they're very powerful forces in calling others. So many of these beings are converts. They're the convert energy. When I say faith, I'm not talking about somebody who becomes this religion or that religion. It's somebody who becomes anything that they want. You're a smoker and you become a non-smoker. You're a sex freak and you become a celibate. Whatever the transition is, to be identified in that identification, to actually be able to say that it was God's work. Thanks to God, I'm no longer masturbating 18 times a day. I want to thank God for that. What to do? All the cycles. Anyway, tough for them. Self automation is always very difficult. So you need to self motivate yourself, and that's not easy.